Hello.
Hello. It's nearing the end of day 2. This is Grad Conn from Microsoft, and you've had a great session earlier today. Do you want to run us through what you were talking about a little bit?
I've been told it was a great session.
By me.
Okay, good.
So let's go with it.
That's awesome. So what we were talking about is how does a CMO deal with the chaos that exists in the MarTech landscape these days? Try to give people some reassurance that it's not unusual at this stage to have a lot of chaos because we're in an early stage innovation cycle, and worked out sort of my roadmap for how I'm building out against it using Adobe, Bing, Sprinkler, and then our Dynamics platform. And then ended with like a little sneak peek into how bots are going to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to sort of change the way we interact with machines from being kind of keyboard entry and a relatively static way we do things today to being more voice-based and more human.
And you're talking about customer experience management as well, which is quite interesting. Do you want to explain a bit on that?
Absolutely. So I'm advocating that we stop thinking about all these different point solutions and stop talking about MarTech stacks and start talking about customer experience and start talking about a class of software called customer experience management, or CXM. And you're beginning to, there's a tiny bit of that starting to appear in the literature, but CXM for marketing will be what ERP was for manufacturing. And we're at the beginning of probably about a 10 to 15 year cycle of making that happen. Core to it will be customer ID. We've got to get a standard and customer ID kind of agreement in the industry. If we can do that, it will unlock a ton of innovation because every startup can just align to that customer ID, and every client will know they're not going to have to worry about vendor lock on their customer ID. They can just use a customer ID that'll work across systems.
And you also kind of gave a demonstration of the interaction cloud, which was quite interesting to watch. I mean, yeah, I've seen a few things about customer experience. And what do you think is a failure for customer experience? You know, what do you have to fight against?
Yeah, failure is a little bit of a tough word. So I try to avoid, I actually like to embrace failure. And I don't like to look at it as a bad thing. But it's really, what is the opportunity in customer experience? And if you just think about your own experiences as a customer, so frequently when you have an experience with a company, there's a thought in your mind of, gee, I really wish they knew all the experiences I've had with them, because right now they're just reacting to the single experience I'm having right now. And do they know that I am a fan and I've said good things about them online? Do they know that I have purchased this product many times before? Do they know I'm thinking about buying another product of theirs that I'm making a big decision on? Why have they missed all this? It's almost like, imagine if when you met with your friends, the only thing you reacted to when you're having dinner or drinks or whatever with friends, imagine if the only thing you reacted to was the last thing they said. That there was no body of work surrounding it. Because sometimes when you meet with your friends, they've had a bad day, they're maybe ticked off about something, they're sort of like, and they'll say things that sometimes would be maybe out of character or not quite right. You don't just completely lose it on that. You're like, well, what's going on? Because that doesn't, and right now we are not, as an industry, we don't have the whole picture of the person. And so we can't have a true human interaction with people. A true human interaction is one that's a very full interaction with a holistic view.
But at the same time, you don't want that bubble to burst, do you? That's the kind of thing to avoid, I find, that as soon as you suddenly realise you're talking to a robot, when you're kind of going along with it or something, that's the moment where the illusion is somewhat destroyed. You also talked about robots replacing people's jobs and, how that's not really a thing. Dropped.
So let me talk to that. So I don't see robots replacing people's jobs. I see robots making people's jobs better, right? So what I demonstrated was a sales bot where a seller was interacting with their CRM system. So instead of interacting with the CRM system with a keyboard, now I'm talking to my CRM system, and my CRM system is helping me more. So I spend more time talking to other people and selling, less time searching out and finding information. That's the difference. So really, how do these electronic assistants make us do the things that we do really well as humans and spend less time on the stuff that, quite frankly, we'd rather not do in the first place anyway? I do think that in a human-to-human interaction, it's super duper dangerous to make that a robot if you pretend it's a human. So I run the world's largest social command center. So I run the English Microsoft Social Command Center. We filtered 150 million customer mentions or product mentions or industry mentions last year. All of those are filtered and responded to by humans. The day that I would put a robot in there would be the day that people would not want to talk to us anymore, because you can smell it instantly. Now, sometimes I actually want to talk to a robot because I just have a quick question. I just want to know where parking is, or I just want to know how late are they open. I don't need to go through a whole customer care cycle on that. And so being able to access something in Messenger or in my favorite texting app and be able to really quickly understand that, Universal does this with their Harry Potter ride. So the Harry Potter ride in Universal uses an Azure application that allows you to find out about parking and times and what's its best time to visit. Those are all things that you don't really need a human for. And as long as I know it's a robot, I actually like that interaction because it's a lot more fluid and a lot faster than me having to go search through web pages. And maybe I'll find it, maybe I won't, maybe it's up to date, maybe it isn't up to date. Let me just ask. I just want to ask questions, and I want to use my voice. I want to use an interface that I'm comfortable with versus being forced into some other interface that I have to figure out.
Second day of Ad Week. What have you seen so far? What have you enjoyed? What have you found most interesting? Have you seen any trends?
Well, there are a lot of people talking about AI and machine learning. It's actually quite shocking to me in a good way. I'm glad to see that because there is a tendency sometimes for the industry to be a little bit inward looking, and that was not obvious here at all. I think seeing very outward looking, very broad-minded. People are definitely stepping outside their comfort zone. I've seen a few panels where people are talking very broadly about the issues facing the industry. I was surprised at how much conversation there's been around the U.S. election. I kind of thought I'd get away from that by coming here, but
I actually went to a US election talk just before yours as well.
Oddly obsessed with what's going on in the U.S. So, and I just one little word of just to kind of help everyone stay calm, because everyone seems to be kind of a little on the edge. It's the beautiful thing about the U.S. is it's really, really hard to get anything done. I mean, and often Americans complain about this. It's the strength of the system. It can't just turn on its head, and people can say any crazy thing they want, but the actual act of making that happen is a lot more difficult than people realize. So just everyone take her down a little bit, okay? And then there have been quite a few discussions on Brexit, so I thought that was fascinating and the implications for the industry. And I don't know, I guess that actually makes more sense. It was did give me some pause for thought with some of the people were saying. Key thing being talent. And one of the things that I've seen, again, come up all the way through is how do we make sure the best talent is coming here, and how do we make sure we keep importing good talent. And what I love about that is that it's a recognition by the industry that we got to get innovators in there, we got to get new people in there, we got to continue to bring fresh blood in there, and we've got to bring it from around the world, because we've got to make this a real epicenter of creativity and innovation and technology.
And a big topic has also been, we are currently in the YouTube, Google Red Room. Have you got any comments on the news that's come out from Google this week?
No, I don't have any comments on that. It's not really, I think Google's actually done a good job of talking about it. We've got systems in place on our end to avoid that kind of thing, but it's a challenging issue, and I think the whole industry will continue to work against it, and I think it's just something we have to keep innovating on.
You're a big fan of Back to the Future. You had a DeLorean on the stage. Amazing. It must be a very rare car these days. But hey, big pun. Back to the future. What are we looking at in the future for the media and marketing industries?
Absolutely. Well, the great thing about owning a DeLorean, and people often ask me, no one's asked me here yet, so it might be an American thing, but people always ask me, do I have a flux capacitor? And the answer is yes. I actually have 3 in the car. I have one in the normal spot where you'd see it in the movie. There's a secret compartment behind the driver's seat in a DeLorean. I saw that there's a door with a little lock on it. It's where you keep the papers and all that kind of stuff. So that can come off, and I've replaced that with a slightly medium-sized flux capacitor. And I have a little tiny flux capacitor in my cigarette lighter sort of socket, right? And so I use that to go into the future to see what's happening in marketing. And
glad we get to talk to you then.
And so I'm not just going to kind of ponder. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. And the thing that's really, all joking aside, what's really going to happen is that there are 2 key trends. One is that Microsoft and 1 or 2 other players have created a global network of computers that have made effectively infinite computing capacity available to everyone on the planet. We're just beginning to understand what that means in terms of what we can start to do with data and with machine learning and AI, but we're at the very early stages of that. The second thing is happening at the same time is multi-core computing. And multi-core computing is making our devices so much more powerful that they're now able to adapt to us. So the future is, instead of us learning how to type, or us learning how to mouse, or us learning how to, like, whatever interface device, you name it, use that. Instead, we're going to be using our gaze. HoloLens does that. We'll be using gestures with our hands. We'll be using our voices. That's already quite common now. Cortana and Siri and Alexa, which are all powered by Bing on the back end. You're going to see a natural move to a human-like behavior. And as we do more of that, we'll actually start to look at machines less as a threat and more of a, hey, this is actually pretty cool, because I'm spending less time on things I don't want to spend time on, and I'm spending more time with my friends. If you think about what people really do with technology today, the reason why people love it is because they spend more time with the people they care about. You know, when I was a kid going to college and going to school, there was one telephone on the floor of the residence. Okay, and I would, on Sunday, I would put in a coin, and I would call my parents, collect, and they would refuse the charges, and that's how they knew I was still alive. And that was how I stayed connected to my family. You know, now, today, I have an almost continuous connection with my daughters. They both live very far away from me. One's in New York and one's in Miami, and are on a continuous group text, and we're FaceTiming, and we've got this WhatsApp thing going, and we've got posts going, and we're commenting on stuff, and like there's Twitter piece, like there's this kind of continuous flow of information. At any moment in time, I know almost everything my daughters are doing, and we're connected in a really natural way. I love that. I think it's a really exciting thing, and I think people are wrong when they say that separating us. It's actually bringing us closer together. The one thing that we're maybe a bit more separated is we spend less time talking to strangers. Like, that might be true. I don't know if that's something we really desire very heavily, but we are spending a lot more time talking to the people that we love.